You guys know actually the deal. It's always 12 minutes. And yeah, we're lucky to have you here, Jaroslav. You're telling us something about how to develop that AI. Because you're doing it, or? You're expert in developing that AI. All right. Exactly. Have fun.
No, thank you. So it's a little bit different. I'm Jaroslav. I'm leading a Hamburg startup here in walking distance, and we develop good AI for image analysis in healthcare and medicine. But we have seen, of course, a lot of bad AI on the market. Today there was an article which I received which basically said, is AI the next asbestos? Because there are so many problems in the technology which we are building right now, not we, but the market in general, which is normal for new technology, but it's interesting to be conscious about what are the problems. So I've actually even developed a formula for how to build bad AI, and that's the formula, and I hope you remember that. We'll dive into that, and actually you might use it also to build good AI if you just turn the logic around, obviously. So let's go into that. The point where you start by building AI is to have a big ambition. Like for a small startup of Hamburg, for example, it's an appropriate ambition to solve cancer, pneumonia, TBC, and bad teeth in one stroke. That should be a good approach, and if you go big, then, well, you might be failing like those big companies who just started stuff with too big ambitions. The lesson here is rather go small, and then you have a chance to actually succeed. For the rest of the talk, actually, we need to learn what artificial intelligence is, real artificial intelligence, which kind of simulates the human brain. So this is it. In about 12 seconds, you will know how artificial intelligence works. This is supervised learning, which like everybody in this domain uses. 100% of people talk about AI. Out of those, about 10% have ever done something with AI. Out of those, about 10% have done something like real AI, neural networks, which simulate the brain. And out of those, 90% have used supervised learning. That leaves about 5 people worldwide or so. Now, it's the official estimate is actually 15,000 people. So supervised training works like that. You define a few features for your data, which you want to identify. So number of legs for an animal, color, weight, and you want to find out what the animal is. Very simple example. You train it with a few data, so you throw in images and data of a dog, images and data of a chicken. You train the network to recognize that, and then the network is trained. What now happens when you apply it on a real-world problem and throw in the image of a cow? The AI will do the following. Well, basically, it has learned only those cases, so it will try to identify the closest case to that, which would be then for legs and color is the dog, so it would recognize a dog. This happens when you do supervised learning with a neural network with insufficient data. So keep this example in mind and consider, for example, this could be a tumor, or this could be a broken bone, or it could be a bad tooth, or whatever problem in artificial intelligence you want to see. It's always the same logic. So what can go wrong? The first question is, do the data I have for this training process actually represent the whole problem space that I have? And there's a very funny example which hit us in one case. So we are building a software which detects caries in tooth X-rays. Well, and we can detect caries very nicely. So this is a caries, and you see it on the shadow, and you can say, well, this is a caries, fairly easy. Well, and then you see some other anomaly like here or here actually, and I say, well, is that actually caries or what is that? Turns out, this is not a caries, this is a purely physical phenomenon of the X-ray machine, which is called burnout. This has something to do with the strength of the signal, basically. The tooth is completely okay, but it looks like a caries. So if you train an artificial intelligence only with data about caries, but never train it about the physical phenomena around that, you might learn or you might create something completely wrong. So if you don't consider the whole problem space, you might find answers which don't fit the problem at all. Just an example. What we also do, what we love to do in computer science or in data science is to play with the dimensions of a problem. We can deal with 50,000 dimensional problems, that's totally no problem, but typically computing power limits us in some way. And a very simple example is an MRT, which is basically images of slices of an organ or the brain in this case or something like that, which is a massive amount of data. And if you want to analyze this amount of data, we need massive computing power, storage, and that's expensive. So what do many people do? Well, they look at this scan of a brain, right? sorry, I couldn't do the three-dimensional representation. And they reduce a few slices out of that because it's too many data. And of course you can reduce slices out of it, you can reduce the dimensions of it, but you lose information, obviously. And if the tumor you are looking for was unfortunately here in this area, then bad luck, you just missed it. So playing around with dimensions, actually does the clicker work here?
Yes.
Ah, lovely. Actually playing around with dimensions can give you information, but potentially it's the wrong information in the wrong context because you just lose some stuff. So that is something which has to be kept in mind, otherwise bad things will happen. A completely different example is from end of Second World War, where the US military got shut down their bombers over Germany. So they asked the Hungarian mathematician, well, find us the places on an airplane where we need to do additional armoring so the planes survive. So they gave them these images of bullet holes in the airplane and said, we believe we have to armor the aircraft there. So he looked at it and said, oh no, absolutely totally not. Because you have only looked at the aircraft that survived, that they came home. You didn't look at the aircraft which actually got shot down. So actually you have to armor here, because this is where the aircraft were hit, which went down into the ocean. And this is called survivor bias. You see, you can work only with those data you see. The data you don't see or you don't have, you cannot do something with that. Now, looking at it from a healthcare point of view, the US systematically collects data of patients which die or why they die. And they have, for example, found that they have 400,000 cases in the US every year of patients which die for reasons which are preventable. In Germany, we do not collect those data. We have something like 4,000 or 3,500 cases of patients who survived and then sued the doctor in the end. But we don't collect the data of patients who didn't make it. So this is a whole massive set of data which we just don't have. And we are playing around with all those data. That's extremely, extremely risky, because a lot of the domain we simply cannot cover. Again, if you don't keep this in mind, you build bad AI. Another thing is label quality. As with the example with the dog and the chicken before, if you don't label the chicken a chicken, but label it a cat, then bad things will happen. The same happens, of course, in medicine, where labeling of data, identifying what actually is on the image, is very, very hard. When you talk about artificial intelligence for thorax analysis of the chest area, everybody worldwide basically uses the same data set, which is the chest X-ray 14 data set, which has been released in the US. And you can look around on all the products, they all use this data set for training. 112,000 images, that doesn't sound too bad. Well, 2 years ago, I believe it was, a group of thorax specialists actually looked at the data set and asked the question, how relevant is this data set at all? Does it make sense? And they found a few very, very bad things about this data set. Like the labels are not correct. There are systematic errors in this. Yeah? They claimed in the end that the label quality of this is something like 90% accuracy, which means it has 10% failure built in. That adds up with the failure of the AI itself. So probably you build an AI which in 2 out of 10 cases makes the wrong judgment. So again, if you don't label your data properly, then the AI will learn bad stuff and bad things happen. And that's tremendous effort to do that. And then in the end, the question is, okay, how much data is actually enough? The funny thing is, nobody in medicine, nobody with failed AI will tell you how many data samples they actually used, because that's kind of embarrassing. But we have a nice example from Amazon, who tried to build an AI system for HR recruiting, where they wanted to recruit new employees based on the employee base they already had. Guess what? They had 81% male, and they came from dominantly male colleges. So the AI started to sort out all the women, especially women from all female colleges, because obviously there was never a candidate in Amazon coming from one of those colleges, so the college must have been bad. So don't hire the person. Totally stupid approach, but they simply didn't have enough data to capture the female population of engineers. In medicine, we have the same problem, and there are plenty of analysis here. Basically, the rule of thumb which we all apply is, don't start medical AI if you have less than 1,000 perfectly labeled images per class you are looking for. Class would be like chicken, cow, dog, or something like that. If you don't have 1,000, better 4,000 images of the class, don't even start. It's not worth the effort, because it's not significant what you get out of it. Now, I've seen AI systems which claim to be useful in hospitals which were trained with 60 images. Yeah, that's just junk. Yeah, very clearly junk. Don't even touch this. So this is a rule of thumb. In our company, we work typically with 3,000 images per class, and that works quite nicely. So that's, in this area, you can work. Everything else, forget it. Okay, so this is basically the formula of how to build bad AI. So if you put all these factors together, which I've just kind of tried to explain in a very big hurry, you can really systematically minimize the value of your artificial intelligence product. I hope nobody does that systematically. I hope everybody tries to maximize it at the end. But these are the components you have to cover and work on. There's one aspect which I didn't touch on, which is always the aspect of, well, is the AI reasonably, is it ethical to use this AI, is it explainable, and should we use it at all? And I'm completely ignoring the question because I believe it's not a relevant question. Explainable AI is a big topic right now in the mouths of politicians who have no idea what they are talking about. When was the last time a doctor explained to you how an aspirin works? Raise your hand. Never. Do you eat an aspirin if you have a headache? Okay, you eat ibuprofen or whatever, yeah? But some of us do, yeah? Well, nobody explained it to you. It works, so correlation over causality, you don't know what it does, but it works somehow. But also the doctor never explained to you that it can be deadly under certain circumstances. Aspirin is a deadly medicine for children, for example. Do not do that, whatever you plan for tonight. Don't feed your children aspirin. But nobody explains it to you, but still we use it. Now, why should AI be now in a different quality than other medicines that are in widely use in the population? In most cases, the doctor even cannot explain what they are doing there because they don't know, actually. So we have to prove that the software, that the AI actually correlates with a positive outcome, that it does good. I mean, that's, I believe, a minimum standard that we should employ, of course. But there's no need in my mind to explain how it does that, as long as it statistically is better than a human being and doesn't create harm, which is actually what the doctors swear in their Hippocratic oath. And nowhere says we have to statistically prove that we are 100% good in what we are doing. That's nowhere in the Hippocratic oath. They just promise that they don't do harm and do the best they can with their abilities. And I think this is something which we should demand from artificial intelligence as well. Okay, I give you 7 seconds. Thank you very much. And the questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from your side? Kannst du das einmal? Da vorne rechts. Da rechts. Second? No. Okay. 6 minutes, so it's not.
You can ask, but now I can answer it.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any questions one can ask to be on the safe side? Like I went to a massage parlor abroad some time ago, and they had a section where there was somebody with their computer, and they said, oh, if you have any medical problems, talk to this person. They put in the data, and then they will tell you the course of action and what you should do. So after having listened to your presentation, I would ask myself, so how could I find out whether this is a good AI, or if it's AI, to be on the safe side and not get messed up?
There are 2 answers to that, actually. The one is, of course, if you have AI in the medical space, it should be medically certified. Okay. Yeah, because medical certification has an element of evidence, of analysis, which at least gives you an indication. I mean, it's by far not perfect, but it gives you an indication whether somebody has actually thought about this stuff. The number of medically certified AI products in healthcare on a global level is on the order of magnitude of 20. Like, maybe 25, but that's about the limit. Of everything else is not certified, but in use. Can be good, can be bad. So part 1 of the answer. Part 2 of the answer is, I believe today medical AI can only work in assisting a real doctor who has been trained for whatever, 8 years or so, and actually does know what he or she is doing. Replacing the function of a complete doctor in one domain by AI with the current technology is madness. Maybe in 10 years, 20 or whatever, but not now. So just assist. And this is what we are actually as well building, very small slices of functionality, which assist doctors in areas where they like it, actually. It helps them.
Yeah, I'm Andre. Do you have any advice to get these licenses from the medical, because we are developing an app, maybe, yes, it's with a Neurologe zusammen. We are measuring the brain for stress and emotions, and we are triggering it with some kind of stuff they can do. If they are stressed, they can calm down, and we measure this. And this is on a good way to heal the cancer, or to give them the people to fight against their cancer. And we're on a way to get these licenses and try to get the money for it. But how's the cost and the price, the way to it? How long does it take to get this? Can you give an advice there?
Yeah, I can give an advice there. Start praying and put a lot of money aside. So you are talking mid-level 5 digits for the lowest levels of certification. You are talking many months and many hundreds of pages of documentation and statistical analysis. And then you are talking about medical device regulation, which goes into operation by May next year, where you basically have no chance to get your certification anymore. Forget it. Yeah? Because alone in Germany, 64,000 medical products have to be recertified, which takes months. There is only one so-called notified body identified yet who even has the license in Germany to do the work. There will be a few nominated in October this year, then they will start and they will take applications, and guess what? There will be Philips, Siemens, GE, Samsung, and all the others standing in line to get their stuff recertified. And just to make this more slower and even worse, the EU regulators have decided that they cut down the number of notified bodies from originally roughly 80 to now roughly 40, so they halve the size of the notified bodies, but multiply the problem. So basically, you have almost no chance. There's a statistic from Ernst & Young which basically says, due to this factor alone, 400 out of the 1,600 healthcare companies in Germany will die. Because they just don't get their product certified anymore. That's a good news.
We have the UK in
Good luck.
So, yeah.
Is that a good news or the bad news?
It's the news I expected.
Yeah.
Just from a business model perspective here, I guess that the Siemens, GE, and everyone else is already trying to do exactly what you do here, and IBM, Watson, whatever, doing services for this industry and so on. So many big names being there. So what is that? What makes you feeling good in doing this in the startup world and trying to rule the world here?
Yeah, thank you. I get this question a lot. Come on. I get this question a lot because that's the obvious question. The answer is A, we have our ambition right. Yeah, we don't try to build Dr. AI as some other companies who will miserably fail in doing. We focus on very small slices of artificial intelligence support, which are actually manageable with current technology, and we can get the data in sufficient quality for that. And what supports me in that opinion is basically the calls from the big companies, from the big players, to us. Dear CellmatiQ, could you sell us your data? Because they don't get them. If an IBM walks through the gate of a major university and says, "I'm IBM, give me all your data," in the best case, the people start laughing. Yeah? They don't get good data, and that's why their AI, in general, is not very useful.
Very quick question. Then I would say thank you very much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.